What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Albuquerque trilogy. Now we are officially transitioning from Breaking Bad to the spin-off, prequel, sequel, companion piece, well, Better Call Saul, and listing off the greatest episodes in our opinion. Let's go. Just like Breaking Bad, I think the show is absolutely amazing with pretty much zero flaws. It's on equal footing with, and in some elements, in some ways, possibly even better than its predecessor. Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould really pull off a miracle here because, I mean, who would have thought that they could take the comic relief character from Breaking Bad and give him a compelling backstory and turn him into a nuanced, three-dimensional character with a with an immensely satisfying arc. Not only does the show do a great job of enhancing Breaking Bad with the various revelations and callbacks, but it also stands on its own as a just brilliantly acted, brilliantly written character study with great cinematography, music, directing, and editing. Like this is legitimately one of the most cinematic looking and sounding shows I've ever seen. It does exactly what a prequel slash spinoff should do, and doesn't rely on cheap nostalgia, like a lot of our spinoffs and prequels do. Just a phenomenal piece of television. Once again, the Emmys, we are on your ass for for not giving that the recognition that it deserves. But that's a whole other thing. Just like with the Breaking Bad list, this was incredibly difficult to assemble. I'm ultimately really happy with the picks that I ended up going with. So starting off with my honorable mentions, I have Something Stupid, Breaking Bad, Inflatable, Cobbler, Uno, Miho, Marco, Bad Choice Road, Something Unforgivable, and JMM.
I'm not gonna rehash everything you said about Better Call Saul because everyone knows I agree with
Mhm.
every word you said. And but he's right about the Emmys though. I'm serious about
Yeah.
that. I'm serious about the Emmys. They better take one away from Secession at some point. It could happen in 50 years. I don't care, but take one away and give it to Better Call Saul.
Yeah, I can hold a
Uh,
grudge, you know?
yeah, for sure. So yeah, I got all the honorable mentions you mentioned as well. I have on my list, but a couple you didn't have that I have is, or one that you didn't have that I have is Waterworks, uh, which might be on your uh, top 10 list, but Waterworks for me is an honorable mention.
Yeah, great episode. Phenomenal.
Oh, actually, and Bad Choice Road. Sorry, that is not on my list. Bad Choice Road. Wonderful episode.
Yeah. Okay, my number 10 pick is Nippy. I love that this was a full-on black and white episode. And that scene where Gene stages an emotional breakdown, basically to where his real feelings are coming through, but his honest emotions are being used in dishonest ways. And like he's doing that to distract the security guard during this heist he has going on. That was so good. And like I mentioned before, I'm a sucker for a good heist episode of a show, a good story like that. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that as aspect of this episode, and how it really shows how Gene, Jimmy's persona, he kind of misses his old life and is now lonely and having to live a complete lie and be paranoid all the time. Saul Goodman is funny in Breaking Bad, but him as a character, when you're seeing him, his character just gets more and more depressing and tragic. The more you learn about him in the show and what has become of him. Yeah, Nippy, really great stuff.
Yeah, I love Nippy. I'm a huge Nippy fan. A lot of that's a similar episode to kind of like um the one episode we were talking about in
Fly?
Fly. Yes, Fly. Thank you. That gets a little bit of heat. Nippy's kind of the same way. It gets a little bit of criticism, and I completely don't get it at all. But another topic. So my number 10 is Breaking Bad. I
Mm-hmm.
thought I had to include, since I included Better Call Saul on the Breaking Bad list, I need to include Breaking Bad on the Better Call Saul list.
Yeah.
But I love this episode for a variety of reasons. One, I think it's one of the most well-written episodes in the show because it shows the parallel of how, like you said earlier, Jimmy getting involved or Saul getting involved with Walter White was a terrible decision, really bad. And he kind of had some foreshadowing leading up to that, and he could have avoided it. And also in the second timeline with Gene, we're seeing how those situations are very similar.
Hmm.
He's slipping back to his old ways. He is slipping Jimmy.
Yep.
He's trying to run scams. He's slowly, and so they're showing the parallel of him uh, getting with Walter, the same with him running scams in his new life in Nebraska and Omaha.
Hmm.
And so it's really cool how those two things are going side by side, and we're seeing how we're kind of setting up the theme of how Jimmy's not changing. Jimmy is slipping Jimmy. He will not change, which is really cool because of the way the finale goes later on. We'll talk about, I'm sure, I'm definitely going to talk about it. I hope you talk about it too.
Oh yeah, of course.
Um, and then we will have it's really cool how they set up those themes because the way the finale plays out, it's really rewarding that you see uh, how the old storyline with Gene ties in to his old ways with Walter White. It's great how Better Call Saul was able to tie in Breaking Bad into the plot like that. That is so talented to me, and it's such a cool episode that I love rewatching because it pays off if you've seen Breaking Bad, and it really ties everything together well. So that's my number 10, Breaking Bad.
Yeah, fantastic episode, and for me, it was one of the most painful ones to cut. But I mean, all we're dealing with all great stuff here, so that's just how it goes.
For
So,
sure.
so my number 9 pick is Wexler v. Goodman. My God, this episode is so so good. I especially love the scenes where Saul shows Kevin and Mesa Verde his commercials, and we're Saul we're Saul pranks Howard with the two prostitutes in the restaurant. I thought that was really funny. It's just such an awesomely written and compelling journey, seeing Jimmy just fully embrace the Saul Goodman persona and seeing his relationship with Kim Wexler get more complicated as his schemes get more and more morally questionable. Like, ser- seriously, Kim is seriously one of the best written and best acted characters I've ever seen, and this episode is top tier.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. I adore Kim Wexler, and we will get into that more for me later on. But my number nine is I put a two-way tie here. I did it twice.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I'm a cheater. But I put Bagman and JMM just because those episodes are so connected to me.
Mm.
Because of the connection, JMM really has a great episode with Lalo talking about, you're the guy for this.
Yeah, you're the guy for this. Yeah.
And it's just such a great episode with Jimmy talking with Lalo, setting up that schemes, and especially him in the courtroom dealing with Lalo's murder. That is great television. But then it sets up Bagman, which is a self-contained episode with Vince Gilligan back directing, and it's just one of the most beautiful episodes of Better Call Saul, and you get more of Mike and Jimmy's relationship. But I think I put those two together because I feel like they're so tightly, just like earlier Rabbit Dog and Confessions, I feel like they're so tightly knit plot wise. So I feel like I kind of got to put them together. And I'm cheating a little bit because I love, like, there's like 30 episodes I could put on here. I cheated at 10.
Oh,
Bagman, JMM, my number nine.
oh yeah, man, no problem. These are our lists, our roles. So whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
I've got a three-way tie, a three-way tie coming up on this list, and I'm definitely gonna talk more about Bagman, much higher on the list. Yeah, both fantastic episodes. My number 8 is there it is. All right, my number 8 is a three-way tie between plan and execution, point and shoot, and fun and games. These episodes 7, 8, and 9 of season 6, were just such back-to-back awesomeness and flowed into each other so well that I just had to do a three-way tie. Like I had to. They connect so well. This got to be the best like three-episode arc, three-episode run I've ever seen on television. All three of these episodes show Better Call Saul, the lawyer show, and Better Call Saul, the cartel show. The two sides of the show finally merging together with Lalo showing up and the shocking death of Howard. The show Salt and Kim growing further and further apart as a couple due to the situation they've been put in and what Saul has put her through. And they showcase the full transformation of Jimmy McGill into the Saul Goodman that we know from Breaking Bad. I mean, these three episodes are packed with emotion and tension. The final standoff and point and shoot between Lalo and Gus, with Gus killing him and insulting Don Eladio, is fantastic. And that's a really cool way of like showing and setting up the rivalry between Gus and Don. With Gus going to kill him in Salute. And these episodes are just absolute back-to-back masterpieces. And the scene in Fun and Games when Saul and Kim split up, it just a total tearjerker.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I thought about putting them in a three-way tie, but I just couldn't do it because all three of these deserve a spot on the list. And
Yeah,
I'm gonna they you were right. They are the three best hours of television back to back to back you can watch. It is unbelievable the job they do with these episodes. But I'm gonna start out with number eight, Fun and Games, uh, because of the character moments. The scene between Kimmy and Jim or Jimmy, Kim and Jimmy is actually a scene that had me crying. I
yeah,
was dead. I was full tears coming out of my eyes watching that scene because of how invested I was in these characters and how the dialogue felt so real. It's the first time I've ever watched a love scene, and it's just I felt like the characters, the words they were saying, felt like I was outside listening to a argument.
yeah,
I was not watching television. I was listening to a couple argue outside because of how real it sounded and how like they struggled to find the words sometimes because arguments aren't perfect like in real life. They struggled to find the words they needed to say to each other. And wow, that Fun and Games is unbelievable. Also, Howard Hamlin's funeral, with Kim doing one more lie, which really sets up the whole her leaving Jimmy. It is just, and then the whole they're breaking up because she was having too much fun. It's
yeah.
just the absolute. Uh, Kim Wexler is one of my favorite characters of all time, and Fun and Games is a phenomenal episode, and that is my number eight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I also love that scene. I forget which one. Like I think it was point and shoot where Mike is telling Jimmy and Kim that giving them the story, that they're going to tell that they're going to tell everyone about how Howard died, and the plan that they had set in motion, and and like it's really interesting because it's Mike giving them advice, and but also in a in a very subtle way, kind of kind of like scolding scolding them. It's like from now on you're gonna have to go with run with and live with the lie that you've been telling, and that scene that I think is also fantastic.
Oh yeah, and the scene of Mike, we could talk about this forever, but the scene of Mike burying Howard,
Yeah,
it's just beautiful. Or it's not beautiful, but it's touching to see Mike who's burying another person who's not in the game,
yeah, like he
who's
didn't
that's been, it's been a common theme.
like he didn't deserve this. He's not in the game,
Not in the game. He didn't deserve it, and it's powerful stuff. And another note there, Howard Hamlin is buried under the lab that Walter White cooks meth in.
Yeah,
Another beautiful part of this
man, yeah.
universe. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Okay, my number seven pick is Winner, the season four finale, and the episode where we get more insight into Jimmy's relationship with Chuck, and Jimmy McGill fully becomes Saul Goodman. Like that ending, like that ending where Jimmy gives that simultaneously sincere and insincere speech to get his job back, and then reveals to Kim his future plans. It's all good, man. It's just masterfully done. A great finale, and one of the best episodes of not just this show, but the whole Breaking Bad universe.
Extremely agree. I have such strong feelings on Winter, and I'll talk about those later.
Yeah,
My number seven is the second part of the trilogy is Point and Shoot. For all the reasons you laid out earlier, Point and Shoot is more of the action side of this three-part saga.
yeah,
It's a lot of action. It takes place in the course of one night. Kim Wexler, once again, Ray Seahorn does a beautiful job in
hmm
this episode, and the confrontation between Gus and Lalo is a lot of people said that it was a little anticlimactic. I didn't think that. I felt the whole episode was building suspense to that moment, and it really paid off because of the building of the entire episode built to it. So I am number seven is Point and Shoot for me. Phenomenal episode.
yeah, and and I also love and I also love that one part where where Kim arrives at the house, and like they ask her to point out who she's been like told to kill, and then points to like the stand-in, and then like the stand-in that Gus has,
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was really good.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Okay, my number six pick is Pimento. Mike Ehrmantraut just once again shows how badass of a character he is. And that final scene where Jimmy realizes that Chuck never believed in him, and this whole time has been plotting against him, is so heartbreaking and so unbelievably well acted. And yeah, that's all I really have to say. Just two big highlights of the episode that really kick it into the stratosphere for me as far as ranking these episodes, and just great stuff.
Yeah, I actually left Pimento off my list because I couldn't figure out a place for it. And that would definitely be a honorable mention to me because I absolutely adore Pimento, and this is the culmination of the entire first season of television, which is just the Jimmy and Chuck's relationship is so integral to that first season. It's a great
Hmm.
ending. So my number six is actually Saul Gone. The finale of Better Call Saul. I think it is a perfect finale, which shows talking about earlier when I said they set up that he didn't change. He was repeating old habits. Saul Gone shows that he can change and he's willing to change. And they set it up in a great way because he starts the episode scamming the system. But eventually he decides that he doesn't want to be Saul Goodman anymore. He's putting all that behind him, and he wants to be Jimmy McGill. And it's just a great touching episode, but it's not without its badass moments too. I think the scene of him saying, him stressing his importance to the universe and to Walter White himself, saying Walter White could not have done it without me. I
Yeah.
was integral. I
Hmm.
think that is great writing and something that Saul Goodman would say.
Yep.
But then when he shifts to Jimmy McGill, it becomes more interpersonal about Kim and Chuck and his regrets. And the theme of the episode being all about regrets and
Hmm.
time travel, and him using Mike, they're the writers using Mike, Chuck, and Walter to get those ideas across from all the different the three biggest factors of his life probably outside of Kim, Mike, Chuck, and Walter.
Hmm.
Um, them all having to say in the time travel-esque part of the episode. Time machine. I'm not gonna say time travel. I'm gonna say time machine because
Yeah.
time travel is a can of worms.
Yeah.
Time machine. It's a great part of the episode. It is a great finale. I love it more than Felina, but I'm a huge Better Call Saul fan, so I'm gonna say it. Saul Gone is my number six episode.
Saul Gone is amazing. And and you'll see it later higher on my list. Um okay, all right, now we're getting into the top five. And my number five pick is coincidentally 5-0. Like this episode is basically where Better Call Saul turns into the Mike Ehrmantraut show. But like I mean, as I've established, I love Mike. Both him and Kim are my favorite characters in the Breaking Bad universe, and I love that this show, especially this episode, gave him a lot of time to shine, and we get to learn more about his past here, learn more about his past here, and how his son was a cop who was killed by two corrupt officers for not willing to go down the road of scumbaggery, and we get a great flashback of Mike, getting his revenge on those cops, which was fantastic. And man, that final monologue of Mike of Mike talking to his daughter-in-law about his son and what happened to him, and him breaking down, was so heartbreaking and so powerfully acted. And and John and Jonathan Banks absolutely should have gotten an Emmy for that. And the fun fact that year, Jonathan Banks was nominated, but lost to Peter Dinklage for Game of Thrones. And during his acceptance speech, he was like, shouting out the other nominees. It's great to be alongside these incredible actors and singled out Jonathan Banks' performance in 5-0 as being spectacular, and rightfully so. So yeah, this is a great episode that fleshes out a great character.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. And actually, my number five is 5-0.
Ha.
We're in agreement here. I adore this episode, and I think I'm not gonna mention anything you just said because you killed it, and I don't want to rehash old ground. But something else I want to add about the episode is it feels like it's shot very very well because it's this episode takes majority of the episode takes place in Philadelphia, right?
Huh?
But it's still shot in Albuquerque. But
Yeah.
they find locations, they make sets that feels like it's a whole different environment. And it's obviously a show. I know we have to say this nowadays, but it's a show that's shot on location. They
Yeah.
build sets, they have costumes, they're not wearing LEDs on their body,
Yeah.
LED light bulbs. And it's stuff like that. It's just it makes the episode feel real, and especially when you're dealing with a interpersonal relationship like a cop drama, essentially what this episode is.
Hmm.
It feels good that they're wearing the costumes, the guns are real,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Is the Maze Sync elements are huge in this episode. So I'm a huge fan of 5 It's my number 5 as well.
Yeah. Totally. Okay, my number four pick, and we were talking about this earlier, is Waterworks. This episode does a great job setting up the finale of Better Call Saul, and Ray Seahorn really shines in this episode. We get to see what her life is like now, what her life is like now that she's living on her own after separating from Jimmy. The scene where she confesses to Howard's wife the real cause of his death and how Jimmy and Kim were plotting against him, and then after that gets on the bus and starts breaking down to tears. It was so emotional, and Seahorn sold it flawlessly. Um, and I also really enjoyed the scene where Kim meets Jesse Pinkman for the first time and recommends Saul's like services to him in like in the kind of a bittersweet way, because like she's acknowledging his skills as a lawyer, but still keeping keeping a lot of distance from him, both physically and emotionally. And the scene where Marion in like in the current timeline figures out the gene is actually Saul Goodman and calls the police on him was also extremely powerful and flawlessly sets up the finale. So yeah, like the extremely emotional, fantastically acted, fantastically written, and it's an episode that does indeed set off the waterworks.
Yeah, that you're exactly right. That episode had me in tears. That is a phenomenal episode. Ray Seahorn, it's actually a first degree felony that she did not get an Emmy for that episode. Whole nother ballpark, whole nother
Yeah,
topic,
yeah,
but yeah, it's horrible that, and hopefully Vince Gilligan with Vince Gilligan's new show, he gets her an Emmy because she deserves one. She
yeah.
is one of the best actors to come out of this show, to come out of both shows for that matter. She is phenomenal.
Hmm.
Uh, so my number 5 or number 4, excuse me, is Wexler v. Goodman. Another episode where Kim Wexler is phenomenal. Ray Horn does a great job. But what I love about this episode is it's the first time I think in Better Call Saul where we really see what damage Saul Goodman can do.
Yeah.
This guy can cause a lot of damage if he is let off the ropes. If he's let off the reins and Kim, Saul lied to her, did his own thing, and he can cause some trouble for people because of his con artist background.
Hmm.
He's been a con man for 20 years, 20 plus years, I'm sure. And his knowledge of the law, I guess, just studying and becoming a lawyer, but also his uh street smarts,
Hmm.
right? He was a con man, so he knows his way around the system, and those two skills combined really shows you the damage he can do for especially for companies and for big anybody who he wants to attack in court. He can really do some damage, and I think this episode has one of the best callbacks to uh, season 1, episode 9. You said it earlier. I cannot Pimento. Thank you,
Yeah.
Pimento. Because Chuck says Jimmy is a chip with a machine gun.
Hmm.
This is that. Him showing all the damage he can cause and how harmful he can be because he doesn't have limits. He will do anything and everything to win, and he shows that in this episode. And just the back and forth between him and Kim is phenomenal. And then the ending of them deciding to get married is just wonderful, and it's a crazy episode, which I am a huge fan of.
Yeah. Okay, my number three pick is Chicanery. I'm a sucker for a good courtroom drama. And this show has a lot of great courtroom scenes, and this episode is no exception. Most of this episode's runtime is dedicated to this trial, this case between Jimmy and Chuck, and it is so compelling in how it is written and acted. And that final monologue, like man, this franchise has so many good monologues. So like that final monologue from Michael McKean as Chuck is one of the best pieces of acting in the entire Breaking Bad universe. And this episode, is so insanely gripping from beginning to end.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. I am number three, chicanery as well. And I can actually say the whole monologue at this point. I've said it so many times. I know it. It's so funny to me that I just like sometimes uh me and my girlfriend will talk about because we watched Better Call Saul together and we'll talk about these episodes and she'll bring up chicanery and I'll just start saying, I am not crazy. I know
Yeah.
he swapped those numbers. I can say the whole thing. It's great. That is phenomenal television. And I think what really makes that episode work so well, and I'm not going to rehash anything you said because you killed everything you said. You're exactly right. But some of the supporting characters in that episode are really great. Howard has some great scenes. Even the PI from the previous episode has some great scenes. And we get some good scenes from Huel and Francesca. Just, side characters that are big in Breaking Bad are here shining in Better Call Saul too. It is great that these two shows come together like this, but you still have the main heavy hitters of the show, Chuck, Jimmy, Kim, are still leading the way and just creating a great courtroom drama that is one of the best episodes in the entire Breaking Bad universe.
Yeah, totally. All right, my number two pick. The number two and number one picks, like these were kind of challenging to order. I was battling this for a while, so I think they're both equally amazing. But but this is how it ended up. I think it works out really well. My number two pick is Saul Gone. This episode concludes both Better Call Saul and the Breaking Bad universe in general in absolutely beautiful way. Jimmy finally leaves behind the Saul persona and decides to just own up and confess to and take accountability for every bad thing that he's ever done. I love the time machine the time machine motif that's peppered throughout the flashbacks with Mike, Chuck, and Walt with Mike, Chuck, and Walt and saying, hey, if you had a time machine, what's something you would go back and change, and what are your regrets? And Jimmy and Kim's final scene together, where they go to separate ways, and Jimmy looks longingly at her through the jail friends and gives the finger gun is it's both heartfelt and heartbreaking. A This is an absolutely phenomenal ending to a phenomenal show and franchise. And I mean, what else can I say? But bravo, Vince Gilligan and Peter Gold.
Yeah, bravo to them. That the Saul Gone is perfection. Already talked about it a lot. You're exactly right with everything you said. It's a phenomenal episode. My number two episode is the final part of that three trilogy that I started way back. Plan and execution. Uh, One of the best written shows I have or episodes I have ever seen. It is a show that starts fast and ends fast. With the what's the correct word? The
Uh,
destruction of Howard.
oh
The
yeah, yeah, yeah.
destruction. That's a great word. The destruction of Howard Hamlin.
Sabotage. Yeah.
Sabotage. Yep. How they sabotaged Howard, building up this plan, and then you see the fallout of that plan and how it really affected his life. I don't think a lot of people expected that element. We knew we were attacking Howard, but we didn't realize how much of effect it would have on his personal life. And then we get to the execution. We saw how it played out. We saw Howard, his personal life came out. And then when our characters, we as the audience saw what Howard was going through. Our characters didn't. When our characters, Jimmy and Kim, find out what Howard's going through, they had no idea he was going through a divorce. They had no idea he was sleeping in the guest house. What happens? Do they have a chance to make up for what they did? Maybe help, say, hey, Howard, we'll help you out. No. Here comes Lalo Salamanca, the whole other side of this show that would never even be mentioned in the same room as Howard Hamlin because this show was split into two halves, really lawyer show, cartel show. They have finally combined into one storyline, and the it feels unreal seeing Lilo and Howard standing there beside each other, and but it plays out exactly like you would think. Lilo pulls out his gun, shoots Howard Hamlin in the face, and it is quick, it is merciless, it is everything you figured it would be. They don't drag it on. They don't take forever. It's quick. It's over. Boom. It's done. And because this show is realistic, and those two characters shouldn't be in the same room together. So guess what? They're not for more than 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And so this episode is written well. It is probably the biggest cliffhanger I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how people in real life, when this episode aired, there was about a 4 or 5 month gap
Yeah.
between this episode and Point and Shoot because of the heart attack of Bob Odenkirk. So thank God he's healthy and well.
Yeah.
But Plan and Execution, phenomenal episode. I probably gonna watch it tonight after we get done doing this because I want to see it.
Yeah, so good. And I love how the scene of Lalo showing up, and then it was almost filmed like a horror film. With
Yes.
his, you see like a silhouette coming in, and like like the candles like kind of moving in the wind. Like the way they executed, no pun intended, the way they executed that scene was just impeccable. Like I said, combining the lawyer world and the cartel world in a way that we didn't think was going to happen, especially not in this way.
Yeah. 100%. It is jaw dropping, and it is one of the best cliffhangers I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Great TV.
Yep. Okay, my number one pick is Bagman. This episode blew me away and is absolutely amazing. It's like the isolated small scale storytelling of 4 Days Out mixed with the white knuckle intensity of Ozymandias. Bob Odenkirk and Jonathan Banks both give phenomenal performances. Their dynamic and character growth are on point, and that shootout scene was awesome. And just great direction from Vince Gilligan as always, and stellar writing from Gordon Smith. This fantastic episode, and my favorite episode of Better Call Saul.
I cannot disagree one bit with you with your episode because Bagman is phenomenal. It
Yeah,
is a wonderful episode. Every time I recommend Better Call Saul to somebody, I highlight Bagman as the episode. I'm like, this is an awesome episode. Make sure you got your popcorn, you got your soda, whatever. This is an episode you gotta really invest in because it is awesome. I always tell them that Bagman's the episode. However, my number one, because Bagman was down my list a little bit, my number one is Winter.
yeah,
I adore Winter. I actually, when I first watched Winter, I got on Reddit and typed a paragraph about how much I loved Winter, and it got like 1,000 upvotes
wow.
because people for some reason really love Winter, and I just expressed my love for Winter out on the Better Call Saul subreddit and said something about it because I really wanted people to know I love Winter because of the character moments. This episode is built around the characters. Mike finally getting a friend in Warner Ziegler, but then having to become the Mike from Breaking Bad and to do the thing he didn't want to do this entire show. He did not want to kill. He avoided it at all costs. Him having to finally pull the trigger because at the end of the day, him pulling the trigger was better than one of other Gus's guys pulling the trigger because Mike was able to give Warner the chance to speak to his wife.
Yeah,
So it's horrible that Mike still had to kill him, but Mike doing it was able to let Warner talk to his wife one last time. Mike is a noble guy who's able to do stuff like that, even though it's crazy because we're sitting here talking about how great of a guy Mike is. But at the end of the day, he just shot a guy in the face,
yeah,
but he did it nobly because he's in the game. He has
yeah,
to do it.
yeah,
And that is just a great it's such a great writing, and it makes you care for these characters, especially Mike, who's been through so much, and we've seen it throughout 5-0 and Half Measure from Breaking Bad. We know what this guy's been through, and to see him finally pull this trigger is just it made me cry. That's the first time I cried in
mhm,
this episode.
yeah,
Then we're moving on. That's the cartels. That's only the cartel stuff.
yeah,
Then we get the lawyer stuff. And Jimmy giving this great speech about um, he wants to be a lawyer. Chuck wrote him this letter. He's giving this very powerful speech that almost feels like he's telling the truth to some extent because of how he feels like he's finally opening it up about Chuck. This whole season's about how he's hiding his feelings. He's not dealing with grief the correct way.
yeah,
Finally, he's letting his feelings out. And then as soon as that scene ends, they pull the rug out from under us and turn it, and Jimmy says, "You see that one asshole crying? Why Kim is crying down.
Yeah.
Kim was crying. He's calling Kim indirectly calling Kim an asshole because she was
Yeah.
crying. She fell for it. The audience fell for it
Yeah.
because Bob Odenkirk is phenomenal. And then they pulled the rug out from under us, and then we get the famous "It's all good, man." And then from then on out, he is Saul Goodman. Saul Goodman is born right then, and I was just roller coaster of emotions this whole episode. Lalo Salamanca's in this episode. He's great. Oh man, I am in awe every time I watch this episode. I think it's the best episode. It's the only episode I'd put above Ozymandias in this entire universe, and that's just for personal. I adore this episode. Winter is my favorite episode by far.
Yeah. Fantastic episode. And what was I gonna say? And then yeah, and I think Jimmy's speech at the end perfectly encapsulates what I believe Chuck said about him in the one episode where where Jimmy uses he uses honest emotions in dishonest ways, and I think that's the epitome of that because because there is part of the speech where he's telling the truth. He does. He does care about he does care about Chuck and trying to do right by him, despite everything that's happened. That there's this there's this devious side, and it's really interesting seeing that play out. And what I really love about Mike as a character is that it's really difficult to place him in the box of like good guy or bad guy, because like in I love how morally complex he is. You question, like, is he a good guy who sometimes does bad things, or is he a bad guy who sometimes does good things? And like like I love I love complex characters like that, because the way that he's written, it feels realistic to how real people are, because because like the world, because most people don't really operate in black and white. We all have these like shades of gray, where where otherwise where basically where good people that are capable of doing bad things, and bad people that are capable of doing good things. I just think the way that just this entire episode, this entire franchise, I'm just everything is just laid out perfectly, and just some of the best writing that you will ever see in any piece of media.
100%. 100. I think what really loves me about Breaking Better Call Saul is that we spent so much time talking about the great episodes of Breaking Bad. These are the same people.
Yeah.
They made Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
And
same
so
crew. Yeah.
and as in life, the more you do stuff, the better you get. So they're a more experienced veteran crew making Better Call Saul. It makes sense that their writing gets better, the way they shoot, maybe the cinematography gets a little bit better. I mean, Breaking Bad's a masterpiece, but I think most people would be kidding themselves if they think Better Call Saul is not just as good, if not better, than Breaking Bad. They
Absolutely.
are
Yeah.
they are both phenomenal televisions, but people you get as your career goes on, you get more experience, you get better. So Better Call Saul is I'm about to rewatch it. Like right now, we talk about it every time, and I get so excited because it's my favorite TV show ever.
Yeah, I
But
really
I
want to. I really want to rewatch it now too. As well as Breaking Bad.